Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 5986, substitute A2 by Representative Regenberg, would allow the display of religiously related items on the front doors of condominiums and apartments despite restrictive covenants banning such displays. I move passage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I like the intent behind this bill. However, sometimes pardon the pun, the road to hell can be paved with good intentions. And I see two major problems with this bill. One is that it gives a franchise to religious practice, and it doesn't give that to an atheist. Should someone who wants to express their conscience, who is an atheist, not be allowed to do so? That's a problem. And the second problem I find is that if we do give this limited franchise to the practice of religion, on line 8 and 9 of page 1, are we asking the courts to, 1, determine whether is it a religious item, and 2, whether it is, quote, motivated by a unit owner's or tenant's sincere religious beliefs? I don't believe that's government's role to peer into people's conscience like that. I think the proper way that we can deal with this problem is to say that every apartment shall designate an area where someone can freely express their conscience, and not limit it to religious issues or religious beliefs, and not have the government peering into someone's conscience to determine whether that is a reasonable belief that's sincerely held. I think by doing that, we'd pay homage to the words of Roger Williams, which were to hold forth a lively experiment that a most flourishing civil state may stand and best be maintained with liberty in religious concernments.
I find myself in the peculiar situation of supporting a Rugenberg bill. I understand where...
You did earlier also, Representative.
Yeah, I did, didn't I? Didn't I, Speak? Yeah. Thank you, Speak. I understand what Representative Filippi is saying. I don't feel that the language of this bill excludes the ability of someone who is not believing in a particular basis of faith to not be able to display something, seeing as how if there's no religion to express, in that case, their right is not being abrogated, if you can follow that logic. And if anyone thinks I'm wrong, stand up and tell me I'm wrong. But I think that in this case, I think that Representative Regenberg has a very good bill, and I strongly support it, as odd as that may seem.
Thank you, Representative. The soul feels better.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I agree with a lot of what Representative Filippi said, but I just want to add this. I'm not a fan of restrictive covenants in general. That's why I don't live in a condominium. I live out in the woods, I guess. But, you know, condominiums have these covenants in them for a reason, and nobody forces someone to buy a condominium. When you buy into a condominium association, you're buying into the covenants, the restrictions, the contracts, et cetera. If that's your thing, fine. I don't think we as a legislature should give somebody the right to essentially overrule the contracts that the rest of the condominium owners have entered into. Say you have a condo of 20 units, and they've reached agreement on whatever they want to do with restrictive covenants, and then somebody sells your unit to somebody who wants to come in and put some type of ostentatious display, good or bad. I don't think we should be giving them the power to do that. That's the problem I have with the bill, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure there's a backstory to this bill. There's a reason it's out there, probably from the other chamber. But I just think it's a bad piece of legislation.
Just to give the brief context, one of the reasons this bill was put forward is the Jewish community came forward. There have been issues with Jewish families wanting to put up the Mezuzah on their household. The Mezuzah is a religiously mandated object. It's got a scroll with some of our Judaism's most important prayers on it. It's not optional. If you're an observant Jew and you live in a house without a mezuzah, you are not living an observant Jewish lifestyle. There have been other states where this has gotten really messy with lawsuits where it's gone up, and so other states have passed this legislation to limit that. And the idea of this is to, again, preempt those messy ideas and allow for folks to live in the way that they need. Thanks.
That's right.